Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be looking at India, March 12th, 2025 to be exact. We've got a whole stack of headlines from India today, and let me tell you, it's a pretty wild mix. We've got international relations, a missing student, a cricket controversy with a really bizarre twist, even some clogged airplane toilets. You really never know what you're going to find in these headlines, do you?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you really get a sense of the pulse of India on a day like this. You know,
Yeah.
the global stage, the internal dynamics, even a bit of pop culture in there.
It's all happening. Okay, well, let's unpack some of this stuff. First up, U.S. India relations. J.D. Vance, the U.S. Vice President, is on his way to India. This is already his second trip abroad. Since taking office, he just wrapped up a European tour, and now he's heading straight to New Delhi.
This visit is a pretty big deal. You know, it really underscores the growing strategic partnership between the U.S. and India. They'll likely be tackling some pretty weighty issues: economics, defense, climate change. India is a major player on the global stage, so these talks could have some serious ripple effects.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting that it's J.D. Vance leading the charge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the guy who wrote Hillbilly Elegy. Now he's representing the U.S. in these high-level diplomatic talks. Kind of crazy.
Exactly. And, you know, you have to wonder how his background and perspective might shape these discussions. Will his personal story, his understanding of social and economic divides, will that influence his approach to diplomacy? It's definitely something to watch.
For sure, for sure. Okay, well, from diplomacy to cricket, India just won the Champions Trophy, and I hear things got a little out of control during the celebrations.
Yeah, there was this incident in Madhya Pradesh where police actually shaved the heads of some revelers who were celebrating a little too enthusiastically, shall we say. It sparked a huge controversy, raised a lot of questions about the limits of public celebration and the role of law enforcement in maintaining order.
Wow, that's intense. I mean, it makes you think about that delicate balance between freedom of expression
Yeah.
and, maintaining public order, especially in a country as diverse and vibrant as India.
Hmm.
But wait, there's more to this cricket story, right?
Oh.
Something about a Pakistani journalist and a label.
Oh, yeah, this is where it gets kind of funny. A Pakistani journalist claimed that Pakistan actually won the Champions Trophy because, get this, their name was on the manufacturer's label inside the Indian team's victory jackets. Of course, it was just a bit of banter. But it really highlights that intense and sometimes humorous rivalry between India and Pakistan, especially when it comes to cricket.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that even in sports, there's always a deeper story. Those layers of history, national pride woven into every match. Okay, well, shifting gears now to a much more serious topic, a missing student.
Yeah, this is a heartbreaking case. Sudiksha Konanki, a 20-year-old student from the University of Pittsburgh, vanished from a resort in the Dominican Republic. She was last seen on the beach, and some of her clothing was found nearby. A full-scale investigation is underway involving the FBI and Dominican authorities. It's a desperate race against time for her family.
It's a stark reminder of the dangers that can lurk even in paradise. Let's hope for a positive outcome in this case. Now, on a bit of a brighter note, it seems the Indian startup scene is booming. Bessemer Venture Partners just announced a massive investment.
They sure did. They're pouring $350 million into their second India-focused fund. This is a huge vote of confidence in the Indian tech sector, particularly in areas like AI, fintech, and direct-to-consumer brands.
And Bessemer knows a thing or two about successful investments right now.
Absolutely. They've backed some major players in India like Swiggy and Big Basket. This new fund could be a real game changer for the Indian startup ecosystem, especially given the current global economic climate. It shows that investors see India as a real hotbed of innovation and growth.
Speaking of hotbeds, we got to talk about this Air India flight. 10 hours of pure misery, all thanks to clogged toilets.
It's true. 8 toilets on an Air India flight from Delhi to Chicago got completely clogged, forcing the plane to turn back. And apparently it wasn't just, shall we say, conventional waste that caused the problem. Passengers reported seeing all sorts of things flush down the toilets. It was a logistical nightmare. Passengers stranded, delays, and a lot of unpleasantness.
Okay, that's just bad travel etiquette, folks. Come on. A little consideration goes a long way. Maybe we should do a PSA on what not to flush on an airplane. All right, let's lighten the mood a bit here. It seems Prime Minister Modi's recent visit to Mauritius wasn't all business and politics.
That's right. He brought along something special from India, holy water from the Ganges River. He presented it during a ceremony at the Ganga Talao, a sacred lake in Mauritius that's considered to be like a miniature version of the Ganges.
That's fascinating. I'm curious, what's the significance of this gesture?
Well, it's a really powerful symbol of the shared cultural and religious heritage between India and Mauritius. A large portion of the Mauritian population has Indian ancestry, so this gesture really resonates deeply with them. It strengthens those ties and also highlights Modi's approach to diplomacy, which often incorporates these cultural and religious elements.
So it's not just about treaties and trade deals. It's about building relationships on a deeper level, tapping into that shared history and traditions.
Yeah.
Now, back in India, it seems the authorities have been busy cracking down on corruption.
Yes, there was this major raid on the home of a Jaipur official, and what they found was astounding. We're talking cash gold, over 100 properties, all allegedly acquired through corrupt means. This case is sending shockwaves through the country. It highlights that ongoing fight against corruption in India and the scale of the challenge.
Wow. Okay, now for some exciting news. Airtel is partnering with SpaceX to bring Starlink internet to India. Get ready for lightning-fast internet even in the most remote corners of the country.
Yeah, this partnership has the potential to be truly transformative. Imagine the impact on rural communities, businesses, education. The possibilities are endless. Bridging the digital divide is crucial for India's future, and Starlink could play a major role in making that happen. Of course, there are still regulatory hurdles to clear, but the potential is enormous.
It's incredible to think how technology can connect people and open up opportunities, even in places that were once isolated. And speaking of comebacks, remember when India cracked down on crypto? Well, guess who's back?
Coinbase. They got the green light to resume trading in India. This is a significant development.
It is. I'm really curious what this signals about India's stance on crypto. They imposed those heavy taxes on it. And now they're welcoming back one of the biggest players in the game. What's going on here?
Well, it's definitely a shift in the landscape. It suggests that despite the taxes, India recognizes the potential of crypto and wants to be a part of this evolving global market. Coinbase's return could pave the way for more investment and innovation in the Indian crypto space.
So from clogged toilets to crypto comebacks, this deep dive is already full of surprises. But things are about to get a bit more serious as we head into the geopolitical arena.
That's right. The Indian Ocean is becoming a real hotbed of activity, with the U.S., China, and India all vying for influence. It's a complex situation with high stakes and potentially far-reaching consequences.
We're going to take a quick pause here, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to unpack this geopolitical chess match and explore more of India's headlines from March 12th, 2025.
All right, we're back and ready to dive a little deeper into these geopolitical currents swirling around the Indian Ocean. You mentioned this is becoming a real hotbed of activity, with major players like the U.S., China, and India all kind of jockeying for position. What makes this region so strategically important?
Well, for starters, the Indian Ocean is a critical trade route.
Yeah.
A huge chunk of the world's oil and other goods passes through these waters. On top of that, it's rich in resources and home to some of the world's fastest-growing economies. So it's no wonder that major powers are eager to, secure their interests there.
So it's about control of resources, trade routes, and ultimately influence, right? Let's break it down a bit. What are the key players' goals here? What are they trying to achieve? Well, the U.S. wants to maintain its global dominance, and they see India as a key partner in countering China's growing influence. They're strengthening military ties, conducting joint exercises, and trying to bolster India's capabilities as a counterweight to China.
And China, what's their game plan?
China is playing the long game. They're investing heavily in infrastructure projects across the region, building ports, expanding their naval presence. It's all part of their Belt and Road Initiative, this massive global development strategy that's raising eyebrows in Washington.
So China's building up its economic and military clout while the U.S. is trying to shore up alliances and maintain its position. And where does India fit into all of this?
India's in a tricky spot. They rely heavily on the Indian Ocean for trade and energy, but they're facing increasing pressure from China, particularly in their own backyard. China's been making inroads in countries like Sri Lanka and Pakistan, which are right on India's doorstep.
So they're feeling the heat. Are they trying to push back against China's advances?
They are, but it's a delicate balancing act. India wants to strengthen its own presence in the region, but they're wary of provoking China too directly. So they're trying to build partnerships with other countries like Japan and Australia, who share their concerns about China's growing assertiveness.
It sounds like a high-stakes game of chess, with each move carefully calculated. What are some of the potential flashpoints we should be watching out for? Where could things get tense?
Well, one area to watch is the Strait of Malacca, this narrow passageway between Malaysia and Indonesia that's a major choke point for global shipping. Any disruption there would have major repercussions for the global economy. Another potential flashpoint is the South China Sea, where China has been aggressively asserting its territorial claims, much to the dismay of its neighbors and the U.S.
So we've got competing interests, rising tensions, and potential flashpoints. It's a recipe for instability, to say the least. What are the implications for global security?
The stakes are high. This is a region that's vital to the global economy, and any conflict here could have far-reaching consequences. It's also a region where nuclear-armed powers are jostling for position. So the potential for miscalculation is real, and that's a very worrying thought.
It's a reminder that we live in a deeply interconnected world, and events on one side of the globe can quickly ripple outwards, impacting us all. Speaking of interconnectedness, let's shift gears now and talk about an issue that's both local and global: air quality. India is grappling with some serious air pollution problems, right?
Unfortunately, yes, 6 of the world's 10 most polluted cities are in India, and New Delhi holds the dubious distinction of being the most polluted capital on the planet. It's a major public health crisis that's impacting millions of people.
Wow, that's alarming.
Yeah.
What's driving this pollution crisis?
Well, it's a complex mix of factors: rapid industrialization, construction, dust, vehicle emissions, even the burning of crop residues. It all contributes to the problem. And then you have geographical factors like the Himalayas that trap pollutants and prevent them from dispersing.
And what about the impact on people's health? What are the consequences of breathing this polluted air day in and day out?
The health consequences are dire. Respiratory problems, heart disease, even cancer. They're all linked to air pollution. It's estimated that air pollution reduces life expectancy in India by over 5 years. Think about that: 5 years of life lost due to something we can control.
It's a stark reminder that environmental issues have a very real human cost. What's being done to address this crisis? Are there any efforts underway to clean up India's air?
There are, but it's a daunting task. The government has implemented some measures like stricter emission standards for vehicles and industries, and they're promoting cleaner fuels and public transportation, but more needs to be done, and it requires a multi-pronged approach. Tackling industrial pollution, improving waste management, promoting sustainable transportation, and raising public awareness.
It's a reminder that progress on environmental issues is crucial not just for the planet, but for the health and well-being of millions of people.
Okay, let's end this deep dive on a lighter note, shall we? Because guess who's coming back to India after 12 long years?
Guns N' Roses. The legendary rock band is set to rock Mumbai as part of their global reunion tour.
Talk about a blast from the past. I bet their fans in India are going wild with excitement.
Absolutely. Tickets for the Mumbai show are expected to sell out fast. It's a chance for fans to relive the glory days and for a new generation to experience the raw power of Guns N' Roses. Their music has influenced generations and their live shows are legendary. It's going to be epic.
I have to ask, do you have a favorite Guns N' Roses song? What comes to mind when you think of their music?
Oh, that's a tough one. So many great songs to choose from. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with November Rain. It's such an epic ballad full of emotion and raw energy. It just transports you to another place. I could see why that one would resonate. It's a reminder that music has the power to transcend borders and generations to connect us on a deeper level. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the geopolitical chessboard of the Indian Ocean to the fight against air pollution and the triumphant return of a rock legend.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey through India today, wouldn't you say?
It really has. I mean, we've gone from high-stakes diplomacy and international tensions to a missing student case, and even touched on those everyday realities of life in India, like air quality and the excitement of a rock concert. What stands out to you from all these stories?
I think what strikes me most is the sheer complexity of India today. It's a country that's rapidly modernizing and asserting itself on the global stage. But at the same time, it's grappling with some really deeply rooted challenges like poverty, inequality, environmental degradation.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that progress isn't always linear. And even as a country rises to prominence, it still has to confront those internal struggles. What are you most curious to learn more about? What really piqued your interest today?
I'm fascinated by those geopolitical dynamics we discussed. The Indian Ocean is becoming such a critical arena, and the way these major powers navigate their interests and ambitions will really shape the future of the region and beyond. I'm also deeply concerned about that air quality crisis in India. It's a stark reminder of the urgent need for environmental action, not just in India, but globally.
I completely agree. It's easy to get caught up in the headlines and the big picture issues. But sometimes it's those everyday struggles like breathing clean air that have the most profound impact on people's lives. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's your final takeaway? What's the one thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Hmm. I think it's important to remember that India is a land of contradictions. It's a place of ancient traditions and cutting edge technology, of vibrant democracy and deep social divisions, of soaring ambition and pressing challenges. And as India continues its rise, it's going to be fascinating to see how these contradictions play out, how they shape the country's future, and how they impact the world.
Well said. I think you've given our listeners a lot to think about. India is a country that definitely defines easy categorization. It's complex, it's dynamic, and it's certainly a force to be reckoned with. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world around you.